the topic that I have selected for today is having a conversation in terms of the spiritual awareness of the process of perception and the nature sometimes of projection that might come out of that as well. So I'm wanting to introduce you to this basic principle, ultimately, of how our experience is created, how we're creating our experience of reality, and how we can work with the process to reduce our suffering and find greater peace and alignment within the process. In terms of thinking about our perception, I'll start with just kind of a simple question for you, which is, have you ever believed something to be true based upon your own impressions, only to later realize that it wasn't true? Yes. I think pretty much anybody would be able to say yes to that, at least once in their lives, and potentially multiple times a day, right? If we're really honest with ourselves. And that's not a judgment about, being right or wrong. What we're inviting is a deeper sense of actual awareness. And so we all have done this, and this is precisely why we need to really investigate how our experience is created. So imagine, for instance, that you're walking down a street, you see a person smiling at you, and what might you think? Now, of course, this may be based upon the circumstances that you're in. If they're smiling at you in a dark alley, you might have a slightly different perception of what's happening. If they're smiling at you on a sunny, beautiful day, in the park, you might have a different perception. But there's going to be some sort of interpretation or experience of that person smiling, whatever it may be. It may be that we think the person's friendly. We may think that they are up to no good and trying to deceive us, and they're about to ask for something. They're being nice only because they want something from us. But whatever it is, whatever it is that we interpret, our mind automatically tends to create a story about the experience based upon our past experiences, our beliefs, and our expectations. And this is part of the process of perception. So if we think about your mind as a projector and the world around you as a movie screen, the images that you see on the screen are not the same as the light coming out of the projector. There's a light that's coming, but then there's something that's interpreting the experience of what you're seeing on the screen. And so the same way here, the reality that you experience is not the same as the raw sensory input that your brain receives. So you receive certain impressions, sensory impressions from the world, but then your brain interprets those things and gives you information and a narrative that may or may not be helpful. So your mind interprets and constructs your reality based upon your past experiences, beliefs, and desires. And so the core idea of what I'm about to unfold for you is that much of the suffering and the conflicts that we experience in life are actually caused by a mismatch of assumed truths. And when we investigate how our experience is being created, we realize how relative our truth really is, allowing us to be ultimately less attached to the stories we tell ourselves and the things that we believe. So this reduces our own suffering while assisting the greater awareness assisting with our greater awareness, our healing, and our spiritual growth process. So the first thing that we're going to do is just look at a psychological model of what has been termed the perception process. So there are many different forms of stimulus all around us, the stimuli all around us, gathered from our five senses. And so we are constantly taking in information through the senses around us. And so the process that unfolds is that there's a perception of three stages. We first select an object. We select the information or the sensory experience that we are going to focus on. We then organize that within the framework of how we've experienced similar things in the past. And then our mind gives us an interpretation of what that is. And so we're going to look at this from this basic psychological process while also introducing some tantric and spiritual concepts into the process as well.